Hi everybody! We are hopping into DnDTime Worlds, and I imagine that right now, as we begin our stream tonight, there's but one thing on everyone's mind, and that is, Pete, you usually wear your white bow tie and the black shirt for this, but today you have a purple bow tie on. And that is because of a very special occasion, and that occasion is I lost my white bow tie, and I'm very sad about it. I really like that one, and I'm gonna hopefully find it before the next time. But and I can get back into the correct swing of things. But for now, I'll just have this dumb purple bow tie. But enough about that. I see Shiba out there. Hello, Shiba. It's good to see you. Farfel13, how fucking dare you? That's how I feel as well. This is an effrontery to you, the audience, and really to myself and to Jeremy, everyone, really. I've done a disservice to the community here, and I want to apologize from the bottom of my heart. VBunny23 just subscribed for 3 months in a row. Thanks so much, VBunny, and also good to see you hanging out tonight. 3 months with you guys, 3 months with guys you would think by now I would get some sense. Yes, you would think so, but we confound people in this way. They don't know why. They're still here. Oh, Alex, I was apologizing for having the incorrect color bow tie on tonight. This was not nearly as... this was not as important as I may have made it sound. Everything is good. But also, good to see you here. Farfel also just subscribed. Thank you. Thank you so much, Farfel. You're the best. And also, you're the best, VBunny. Both of you are the best. I know. Legasp. It is, it is shocking, it is stunning, but that's the world that we now live in. I mean, if I don't find the white bow tie, worst case scenario, I am going to buy a new one, because that's like an important color in the palette, white. I need to have that one in my repertoire. Sometimes, I'll wear it with the white shirt for the stealth camouflaged look, and people don't even know I'm wearing a bow tie, which is very important to have that option as well. There's a lot of times you need that color. But enough about bow ties. What I would like to talk about... Oh no, I've gained a message on Facebook. I will close out of that tab so you don't have to hear Facebook stuff. So... We're in DnDTime Worlds! That's the show where we, as a collective, build words together. Maybe we do that, but also we build worlds together. It's very fun. We've been building a world for a while now. We're pretty deep on this world, and that is the world of Empyrion. It is a place where the gods play a board game where the humans below wage war against each other as a result, a strategy game. So yeah, it's getting pretty good. We last week, or the week before last, we wrapped up Empyrion, in a sense. We're going to be continuing to do work with it for a couple more weeks, but we finished really the world building aspects of it. There's going to be no kind of new stuff that we put on this week. Instead, what we're going to be doing today, you meant you guys, but whatever. My apologies, VBunny. I read each word at a time. I have no ability to kind of, fill in, obvious kind of stuff like that. I do it even when I write it myself. I'll just, I read what's on the page. I'm like Ron Burgundy in Anchorman, which is an old reference, but, when he just reads whatever's on the teleprompter, that's what I tend to do as well. I lack those improvisational abilities. Yeah, we're going to be building a campaign in the world that we've had, talking about how we would structure that campaign, what we would want to put in it, what important world building elements that we came up with over the last, several weeks now. We really want to highlight and show off in the world, what ones we kind of want to fade into the background or make kind of more, optional, so to speak. And in building a campaign, you don't want to necessarily, structure... a story. You don't want to script out how things are going to happen, but you can have scripted sort of events, especially towards the beginning, as well as, you know that once they get to this point, this larger thing is going to happen in the world. And you know that once they, have reached this level, this new threat is going to reveal itself as being kind of significant. Farfel 13. If anyone here doesn't understand an Anchorman reference because it's too old, I think I would need to kill them and steal their youth. I agree. Man, I really fear the day, because someday, Farfel, you and I are going to live in a world where those references are too old. But hopefully that time is not yet. Face of Jericho, what did I miss? You haven't missed much. And also, welcome. But basically what we're saying is we're going to be talking about how we would structure a campaign in the world of Empyrion, which we've spent so much time building now. And as we're going to go over kind of some of the, the various story beats that we would hit, and again, like I was saying before, we're not going to be, scripting anything. We're just going to be talking about, roughly when in the game and when it would feel natural for different things to kind of happen in the, the conflux of the world and the way events have shaken out based on the world that we've built. So when I build the campaign, and so we're just going to start diving into it right now, I think about, well, where we're going to start, what's going to happen in the middle, and what's going to be the ending of said campaign. It's very much, if you watched our DnDTime talks about the way we built one-shots, it's very similar in that regard, but on a much grander scale. And at the same time, needing a beginning, middle, and end sounds really obvious, but I don't know if it necessarily is quite as simple as it sounds. But when I say that we need a beginning, middle, and end, so by beginning, I mean we need some place to start and something that's going to put our heroes that we presumably have for this campaign. Another thing, actually, I'm going to throw this on the list. I would also like to talk about what a session 0 would be like for this campaign. So we'll come back to that in a brief moment. But so for the beginning, we need something that's going to put our heroes forth upon their journey. Then, the middle of the campaign, everything that happens within it, which is grand and vague, but the vast majority of the campaign is the middle. Everything other than what I would say the first few sessions and the last few sessions are the middle of the campaign. And then the ending, what is the final conflict that you have in mind for the campaign? Because even if you don't get there and the events that happen with your players over the course of the campaign, because a campaign's a living, breathing thing, you're not going to be able to know, right off the bat what it is they're going to do at the end. Having an idea, at least in your mind, of where the campaign could ultimately go is a good idea to kind of begin moving it in that direction and think in those and kind of think in those grander terms as you're doing these small things that initiate your campaign. So Barnick Shiva says, we gotta make sure to heavily structure the campaign so we can railroad our players super hard. Yes, I agree. We're gonna start laying tracks down right now, and they're going to take us in a straight line from where we want to start to where we want to end. No, we're gonna be making it a little bit more, we're going to be making it a little bit more loosey-goosey than that. And V-Bunny says, you don't always need to plan an end, and the middle needs to be malleable depending on the choices the player makes. Absolutely. Absolutely, that is true, V-Bunny. And I agree with you. I like to have the idea of where I would want them to end in mind. And I think when we built this world, we very much did I set that up. Where in building this world, one of the core things we did is, we want this game to be about a rebellion against the gods. So we've created, we've created this world where ultimately we would like the players to come into conflict with the gods, and coming in conflict with gods is an end of game thing. If they are battling against all of these gods that we've made, which are pretty cool and I think could make some awesome fights on an incredible scale, if that's actually the direction that the players go, I mean, that's the end of the game. If they beat up Vosto and Zeeth and Tazel and Palin and just, they just do lots of battles and punch all these gods that we've made down, then that's the end of the game. There's nowhere to go after that. And then they're free, and, the world of Empyrion is kind of released from whatever demi-plane is kind of containing it, and the people don't have to worry about the apocalypse and can grow their civilization and become part of the greater planar system. So that would be, a possible ending of the campaign. And Face of Jericho, can we put multiple tracks at least? Oh yeah, absolutely. And like I said, this idea, and this is just how I structure campaigns, but again, like, I like to have in my brain somewhere to go and then see what the players actually do, and then, shift the game per their actions, as, like I said, the world's alive and breathing. By achieving the end, an ending there, the players defeat the gods and stand over the board that was once the world. They are now the gods. Let the game begin. That sounds like a really cool ending to a game that could be. What if they chose to ally with one or more of the gods and help to see that they win? That's also a decided possibility. But just like I said, having these ideas is helpful. Or chose to find a way to escape. Another very good idea. But we also are going to be talking about what we want at the beginning. So, in kind of having a destination in mind, and tell me, I know that you guys are kind of saying that we want to keep things flexible in the ending, and I agree with you in terms of a more practical, like, what it would be like to actually run the game, but in planning the game, having something that you kind of want to work towards is helpful in planning the beginning of the game and kind of planning the session 0. For example, if you think that the game is going to go in kind of a direction where the players are just aligning with the gods and maybe trying to create a victory, and maybe they don't even ever learn, they don't even ever learn that the world that they're in is a game, or maybe they know from the bat, because during our session 0, you need to give the players information about the world that we've built, and we need to know what information is pertinent and important to give them. What does flipping the table look like with this? Basically all the volcanoes in the world blow up, and all of the oceans boil. And, oh god, imagine flipping the table. And now I'm just picturing, like, kind of Inception, where the city flips up and kind of goes on top, and there's another city on top of it, except there's no other city on the bottom to fall onto. It's just, they fall into void, and then dissolve into soul matter, where they get reincarnated for the next game. Yeah, extremely terrifying is, I think, a good word for it. Also, how frustrating would it be if one of these gods flipped the table on a 5,000-year game? And then we're going to have a beginning, someplace that the game is going to start and put people on the right direction, get people into the idea of adventuring. And we built ourselves a very clear starting location in this world. So let's actually, let's start at the start. And let's talk a little bit about our starting location. And that location is... I cannot find it here at all. Where is it? It's not in my list. Where is Barton? Ah, the town of Barton! We built ourselves a single town on the map, and this is... The town of Barton is the most delightful and perfect starting town I have seen. Barton is the stuff of dreams. It is a peaceful, small town within the kingdom of Vasanya, which is underneath the rule of our god Lux, the god of life and light, a good god. And here the people live happily in the ruins of a kingdom that was once much, much larger. So that is Barton, and this is going to be, where we start. And if I'm going to start a campaign, you do need to give the players something to go on at the beginning. There has to be some inciting incident that makes people want to play. Because, just picture yourself at a table, getting going, it's always a little bit awkward on the first day, because people don't know each other's characters, people don't, unless you've done a session 0, which we will talk about a little bit, but people don't know anything about your world, again, other than what they've learned from the session 0. They don't have goals or aspirations within it yet, so you need to kind of start them on a track where they need to have something that they can do, something to really cling onto. And I think we're going to find that in Barton. Pete, what did you think of the addition for the Rebellion? I could go either way on it. I liked the idea, and what Shiba's referring to is Shiba, who's been doing, and also Shiba, by the way, thank you for all the work you put into the document alongside me on this. You've been invaluable in adding all of these awesome stuff into the world here. And let me go to the spot. So yes. Shiba added that Jacobi, which is one of Lux's oracles, and one of the first people that the adventurers are going to meet, that he would have a lot of information about the nature of the game, and this idea that Lux might lead him towards some of the clues about the game's nature, and that this character Jacobi would have an understanding and push the players in that direction. I think that maybe having him understand a little bit about the Rebellion could be cool, but also personally, and let me know what you guys think of this, because this is going to be a big, kind of a big decision point, is where do we want to push the players off the start? Because, do we want the first person they meet in kind of the first town to already be seeding this idea in their heads that the world that they're in is, a lie to a certain degree? Also, I never said hi to Rye Guy Big Boy with the pizza roll, but hello, it's good to see you, my dude. So do we want right off the bat for people to kind of have this idea that the world they're in is a lie, that the cake is a lie, or is that something that we want them to figure out much, much farther down the line? But she said, I wasn't thinking of him bringing it up at the start. Well, when do we want the players in the world to figure out that the world they're in is a deception? Because personally, the way I would want to run this game is not have that come up for a very long time. To just put a random estimate on it, level 15 as just a general idea would be kind of around the time once they're getting into epic levels and they can actually do something about the world that they're in. Because, if they're level 1 and they find out, the gods are playing the world like a board game, like, alright, well, I've got a long sword, what am I gonna do about it? I'd say make it seem normal from the start, says the Face of Jericho. Yeah, I absolutely agree. So let's start with there. We want the world from the beginning. I'm bolded. I don't need bold. From the beginning, I don't know how to spell beginning. We want the world to feel normal. And what is normal in this world? Well, normal in this world is everything is at war. Raiders and goblins and orcs led by the hordes of Tizel rampage across the more common countryside. Face of Jericho, unfortunately, the spectator is not on in this server. Also, I never said hi to Jeremy, but Jeremy's here too. Hi, Jeremy. So the spectator is not on in this server, or this stream for Worlds. The spectator's not on for Worlds, so you can't look at points, but you can look at them in, I believe, in the Discord, in the Prison of the Dice God is what it has now been named to, which is delightful. And yeah, so normal, what normal means is hardship. Great point, Shiba. And for our starting location, I'm just going to, take the reins here and say, for our starting location, we will begin within Lux's territory in the ruined kingdom of Visanya. No, the points are not recorded for DnDTime Worlds. We don't do points on Worlds, and we do not do points on behind the screen. The ones that me and Jeremy do by ourselves are not recorded points, which might be something that will be changing, but for now, that's how we're doing it. So, the starting location. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The starting location is going to be in Barton, which is in the ruined kingdom of Visanya. So let's talk about what we do in Session 0. I know I'm kind of jumping around a lot here, but let's talk about now Session 0, because when imagining what kind of, quests would appeal to the characters and what the characters might be doing in Barton, well, we need to understand what the player's characters are. So what information are we going to give the players about our world? And I'll put that question right here. What information are we going to share with our players about the world? I think that they understand what oracles are. I think you tell them that oracles are these individuals that are, speakers to the gods and often held as prophets. I don't think we go so far as to say that, each of the 9 gods has 3 oracles, but I think the oracles are a little bit more of a mysterious thing, these leaders and prophets that are members of, various religious orders, because that is how the gods communicate. And the world is in the middle of a religious war, absolutely. That is information that is, I think, going to be crucial. Augustus, yo, Pete, how's it going? Hey, it's been a long time. Welcome. I'm, doing good. I'm excited to be doing some worlds. Good to see you. Good to see you on the stream. So the world is in the middle of a religious war. I think that this religious war is the main impetus of conflict for the beginning of this game, and I think that we would want. Oh, no problem. It's good to see you here now. I think the real crux and the way that people would perceive this game from the beginning, it would be less a game about, gods and this odd kind of board game setting, but more a War and Kingdoms style game where, people are hearing about all of these ancient battles and conflicts and are living in the very real place of, war and conflict. Yeah, so be set up as a Warring Kingdoms style setting where one particularly powerful kingdom, Tizels, is framed as an antagonist. For all intents and purposes, I would probably begin by framing Tizel and, that's the lawful evil god, and her hordes of orcs and goblins and hobgoblins and so on and so forth as the villains of this story. Naturally, in Session 0, there are things that might come out where you maybe tell people about Tizel, and they decide, oh, well, we want to play as goblins and orcs and hobgoblins within the kingdom of Tizel, and we want to be like part of this evil army and set fire to small villages and stuff like that. Which, yes, if that's the direction that the players want to go, then yeah, I would push the campaign in that direction, but since we don't have that information, we have to kind of assume some things, and I think for the most part, I would assume that most players, even if 1 or 2 of them found allegiances with some of the more neutral or, even evil gods, I think for the most part, your players are going to play, heroic type characters. They go in assuming they want to be good, even if, chaotic good or chaotic neutral at a lot of times. So I think it's okay to start off by just assuming that you'll be framing Tizel and the lawful evil hordes as antagonistic. Yes, agreed, Jericho. And maybe a basic layout of the places around them. Yeah. A rough idea of the surrounding territories. And when you present this world and you put all the emphasis on the gods, because that's what this world is. It's about the gods. And when you show that you have all of these different gods that you've built, and they have all of these, different aspects and, details about them and relationships, and, there's a question of how much, you can actually tell the players. You don't want to go overkill on that, but when they hear about this stuff, odds are that one or two of the players is going to take an interest and want to use some of that lore, in which case I would say, let them do that, and maybe give that player either, tell them as a group and let them have that information as a collective, but say, only player A knows this because they are a paladin of Oniares, the nature god. And DnDTime, that's Jeremy on DnDTime says, there's also a very valid point, especially in a homebrew setting like this, that as a GM, you can absolutely tell the players, hey folks, let's not go super evil this time around. The setting just isn't really designed to be played that way. Yeah, that's absolutely possible. You can, as a GM, you get to make these decisions. And if your players want to play evil, then, maybe this just isn't the right game for it and they can do it somewhere else. Or, like I said, you could also just choose to embrace it and kind of roll with it and change the direction from that. But for the most part, probably will be good. Information overload would be a problem you would need to avoid in the session 0. Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to go... you don't want to go too heavy on that. There's, certain cutoff points, and it's a little bit tough to judge, and I think people tend to err on the side of too much because they have all this stuff that they know about their world and they want their players to know about it, but knowing the names of the gods, what their kind of domains are, and maybe like a sentence or two about how they operate would probably be about what I would tell my players. And then if a player decided that they connected and resonated with one of those, I would start to give them a little bit more information, just because, they would have that as a player that worships that particular god. But other than that, I wouldn't go too heavy on it. Augustus X, are the gods on the primal plane? Yeah, they're not on the prime material plane. This world actually isn't in the prime material plane. It's kind of in its own contained demi-plane, and the gods exist in a second kind of plane that surrounds it, that basically play the world like a massive board game, which is the kind of the core idea of this world. But no, this world is actually distinctly cut off from the prime material plane, which is kind of a cool direction. It cuts down some like plane shifting and stuff like that, but it also could create some very cool storytelling opportunities, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about tonight. So yeah, well, let's continue talking about what information we're going to give out. Rough idea of the surrounding territories. So if we're talking about which territories and which pieces of this world I would tell people about, we're going to be starting in Barton, and we're going to be starting in the ruins of Vissania, and we're going to be starting with kind of Lux's territory. That is about the only place I would tell the players about. I might, hastily draw up for them some very kind of rough sketched map of the town of Barton, maybe one or two other towns that are near there, one sort of known base or war camp of... Actually, I'll write this down as I'm talking about it. The town of Barton, the starting town. One or two surrounding settlements in Vissania. One enemy war camp of Tizel. Speaking of which, the pantheon should begin with yes. Look at what a normal person would know, who the various gods of my country are, the general layout of the region, legends, and the basic factions. Yeah, that's kind of about what we're going to be getting at. Yeah, I think so. V-Bunny says, part of Session 0 should be how you choose stats, what kind of campaign, such as heavy combat or intrigue, and what difficulty will be like if you allow multi-classing, etc. What level will we be starting at? I had assumed that we'd be starting this campaign at level 1, but again, all of these things is we've built a world. And that's one of the great things about this kind of exercise that we've gone through on the kind of the course of DnDTime Worlds. What level we start out is you guys, what level would you want to start this campaign out? My first instinct is always, start at level 1. But maybe we want to start with more heroic characters. What do you guys think? We have the framework, but we have done none of the actual campaign prep, so deciding things like starting level is what we're doing today. I like 1, 2, I don't know what you guys think. And also, Augustus had asked, I'm working for my world, a sect of the global rogue guild that is called the Seekers of the Veil. They seek the hidden history. Wonder if that may work for your world. That's certainly something that you could kind of slide into this world. And we also kind of, we actually have a kind of a rogues guild that didn't have a lot of, we had a rogues guild that didn't have a lot of kind of structure, and the name Seekers of the Veil fits so perfectly for some of the stuff that they were doing, because they were literally learning information about a thing called the Everveil in our world, which is weird, that is so coincidentally is on point. That's definitely something that you could put in very easily into this world if you were ever going to use it. So V-Money says, Bionic Sheba says level 1, V-Money says 3. That's pretty wild. So, starting level, I'm tending to agree with Bionic Sheba on this one. Starting level, though, we'll put it here. 1. And when I begin a campaign, it's always, I think, unrealistically ambitious and just say, like, oh, we'll play through from levels 1 to 20, which is what we're going to... which is what we're going to talk about here, but it's all a question of abilities. Starting level 15, that would also be a really cool way to. Jeremy's saying starting at level 15, and then the farmers are people who are level 12 or lower. That's very funny. And I like the idea. Did I have my drink? Oh no, I already drank all of my drink. I'm going to have to take a break at some point and get a drink. V-Bunny says, not really. Level 3 gives you the stuff you need to do stuff. See, I understand the appeal of level 3. You start out the game as a hero. You have all of your tools, you have your kit. But really, I don't know, I like level 1. I think there's a certain romance, and I use the word romance a lot, but when I say that, what I mean is, appeal, kind of wistful longing for those early days as an adventure where everything is terrifying, and you don't have a lot of abilities, and you're more relying on kind of your wit and your wit as a player and kind of your bravery to get you through all of these like harrowing things, because every adventure at level 1 is terrifying. That's something that I really like, and I also understand why people like want to skip those levels of weakness, because they just want to have their abilities and be a fully realized character from the start. But I like that feeling of kind of growing into who you are, and it's not for everyone, but for the sake of this, I think we'll just say that we'll start at level 1. Pete is a D&D purist, basically. You could say. Like I said, I get both appeals. Also, Reflected 10-8, gotta cherish those pleb days. I'm with you. And also, welcome. Good to see you hanging out, Let's. So, we've talked about a rough understanding of the surrounding territories. And I think, I was talking about this and we kind of lost the trail a bit, but we were talking about what information we'd give the players, and someone mentioned, the areas, and I said the town of Barton, 1 or 2 surrounding settlements, and then 1 enemy settlement that the players are aware of on kind of a simple map. I think it is very wise to make a very kind of cheap map for your players, and it can be literally just a blank piece of paper with like a few words written on it, a couple of dots and lines. You don't have to be a good artist to make something, but it gives them these are locations that you can go to, it gives them some context, and then when you establish something bad on the map, like an enemy territory, in this case, especially for a Warring Kingdoms game, if you stab something bad on the map, like in this case the war camp of Tizel, then it makes the world feel a little bit more threatening. It starts to make, the roads, there's suddenly this subtext of danger because, well, the enemy is fairly close to us. If we're walking the road from here to there, what's to say that there isn't some kind of, enemy attack, or we're not raided by one of the many, many raiding parties that we've already established and know to be part of this world. And that begins to set up some cool, some just very cool, thoughts, and gets people thinking in the right direction of the world. So I highly recommend, if you're going to play this, building some kind of simple map to get players started on, and not tell them, far in the distance there is the ancient city of Mechanus, wherein lies the, and talk about all of the, the crazy robot cities of Palin, or the city pulled out of time of Zeeth, or any of the things in this world that are grandiose and huge and crazy. Start them off on some very simple stuff where they can get a feel of the world and get this is a world at war and a world under siege. And so I think, and I like to kind of imagine things in chunks of 5 levels because it's simple in my brain, and that is also how, D&D has done it historically, and how they, write campaign books and stuff. So, for levels 1 to 5, I would really like the players to just feel like they're playing in a Warring Kingdoms game. So, let's talk about our first... and I don't think we want to plan an adventure, but let's talk about our first session over in Barton. So I'm going to go back to where Barton was, which, oh no, I can already not remember where it was. Where was Barton? Here. Nope. Barton, where are you? Okay, great, Barton. What do you guys want to do for, and if you want to join along, by the way, I'm sorry, I always do this, and then I forgot to do it. Did I do it right? Nope. Copy paste. If you guys want to join in and look at the document as we're kind of working on it and talking about it, so you have more reference, take it right there. So, Town of Barton, Kingdom of Vasanya. We had established that within the Town of Barton there is a windmill that is this kind of center space, which is likely going to be a hub for the beginning of the game, this tavern, called the Grain Mill. Yep, deleted link. Every Tim. Well, that's why we're going to go over to the Hangout and post it there, as we always do immediately after. Oh no, I don't want to move Spotify on my computer. I need that to listen to music. So we have this central hub tavern, and... V-Bunny, you're in a tavern, and suddenly a giant insect creature, I thought it said insect creature, but it says insert creature here, bursts down a wall. Maybe it's a giant insect creature, which could be fun. But I think you give the players a little bit of a chance to do a few things around the Town of Barton. We've built some kind of goofy characters in here. We have this fun toy maker called the Brendir that makes creepy toys. So maybe you do something with him. We have these 2 rival families, which I absolutely loved, called the Pembertons and the Pilkinsons. And the Pembertons and Pilkinsons are feuding. Oh, I missed your explanation. I'm sorry, I'll come back to it in just a sec. The Pemberton and Pilkinson families are, feuding in kind of an eternal conflict. So maybe you can do something with... some very simple adventure involving, these 2 families have shut down the town when you walk into it, and you're not allowed entry into the town because the Pembertons and Pilkinsons are all over the place over, some pig that they both believe belongs to their farm, or, anything along those lines. Something to set, a very light sort of first level tone, and I would have some hijinks in Barton. Is basically the gist of how I would start this game, is with hijinks in Barton. So that's what I'm going to write here. Officially begin with some hijinks in the Town of Barton. And what the characters are doing in Barton, that's something that you'll figure out in your first adventure. If they have reason to be there, they might just be passing through, or any number of possibilities. Maybe they're all, of Lux's kingdom, and that's why you're starting here, which would be very convenient if that's how it worked it out, and it probably won't. And also, so you're saying, So Augustus was saying, well, if you were going to make a feat where if the rogue or other classes take it, they gain 2 more languages and can cast Comprehend Language once a day, and can read 100 pages in a book every hour. Yeah, that would be pretty rad. I definitely can see that. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I don't know if that ability quite works as well in the context of this world, but I think it's a cool feat that you could definitely use. Or there might be another place that might fit well in this world too. There's like a cool archive kind of spot where some of the librarians therein might have that ability. Bardock Sheba says, actually, one small adventure I was making was all of the Pilkinson's pigs got loosed, and they spend a mission rounding them up in funny, weird places until they find one trapped by a tiger, or something like that. Yeah, awesome. That's a perfect starting adventure for heroes. That takes you from level 1 to level 2, and they get some kind of very small monetary reward for it, or maybe, as we're establishing kind of world lore here, maybe you... what would be a kind of a cool thing? I completely lost my train of thought. I'm a little bit tired, guys. If I'm gonna lay all the cards on the table right now, I'm a little bit sleepy. So I lost that train of thought. But like I was saying, Sheba had a very cool kind of piece of information there. And oh yes, what I was going to say is maybe there's bartering systems in Barton. Bartering in Barton. That feels good to say. Maybe there's some kind of bartering system in Barton. So, you know, maybe they get a pet pig. That would be very delightful. A small boon from the god? Maybe. That would be a cool a direction to take the game. If, like, everything they did small that benefited a particular kingdom, they got some kind of blessing from that god on a very small scale. That would need... You know, you would need to really, like, think about that and plan how you want that to work in the world, which we don't have the groundwork for it now, but that could be a cool direction to take this game for sure. Kind of like the god is giving a buff to a good unit. That's very funny. I like that a lot. And if you set up this bartering system, since we know that the location they're starting in, Visanya, is this sort of ruined kingdom, then it sort of drives home, like, this is a place that is not thriving. This is a place that is on the brinks of civilization. They don't have coin. One of the hallmarks of civilization, the gold coin, is no good here because they don't need money. They need resources to survive. And that could be a very cool... kind of way to begin driving home that vibe. So what I would do is you start out with some hijinks in the town of Barton. Maybe they do a couple of small side quests. Maybe like they do 3 or 4 tiny side quests all over the course of one session, and then, you know, or maybe this is, you know, you spend more time here. You're having a lot of fun in Barton, the players like it, and they're doing, like, odd jobs around town and making a little bit of a name for themselves in the space, which is a small population town, so it's not too hard. And they've been spending some time at the Grain Mill Tavern, and then this is where I would start off with, and someone said it a long time ago, the inciting incident is very important. This is where I would start off with my inciting incident. Actually put a space there. Inciting incident. After a few adventures or sessions carrying out odd jobs around Barton, a small goblin or orc raiding party steals from the town in the night. Yes, I do not know. I do not know about the link thing, but Jeremy, I have no idea. We'll have to talk about it after. I got no idea. This is my thought. Once we've established Barton as a place that is relatively safe and a place that, you know, is pleasant, and the heroes do some work and build up, you know, a degree of investment to it, well, then the town gets attacked. Maybe, you know, a half a dozen or so goblins visit the town. They go to raid and steal supplies. And the players either deal with it, they get out of there, the goblins get away and steal some stuff, or the players, kill the goblins and they don't. Either way of that, it now kind of carries this weight of, well, Barton has become under the sights of a much greater power. And from this point, this is where I would say the campaign would really start to begin. This is where I would start to try and build the world and start to really, take some steps in the town of Barton. Rip Barton. Yeah, maybe. And again, all of this stuff fluctuates. It depends on player choices. Maybe the players hate Barton. And maybe the players decide that immediately after arriving there, they're just like, oh, fuck this place. We're going to go on to the next town that you wrote about on this little map. There's nothing for us here. And, well, that's why we have the map. And that's why you gave it to them, so that they could feel like they have the freedom to make those choices. But again, when I'm planning a campaign, I like to go on what I feel is likely the most, the most likely outcome. There it is. Not likely the most likely, just the most likely outcome. So this is where I would say we're moving now into the middle of the campaign. So we're going to talk about levels 5 to 10, because I don't know if they got to level 5 in Barton, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but I'm going to assume that they did for this sake, and there was enough stuff in those smaller missions around that town that they've gotten kind of buff. So for levels 5 to 10, Barton got attacked, Face of Jericho. I'm sorry you missed the attack on Barton, but Barton was struck by an orc raiding party, or perhaps a goblin raiding party, depending on how far in level they've gotten at what point. As a DM, you've decided to trigger this event happening, because you can be extremely flexible as a DM, because you have complete control behind the screen. The town of Barton being attacked, it can come at any time. It can come at a dramatic moment. Face of Jericho saying the stream is lagging. I do not know how to fix that, but I'm very sorry. It's also possibly because I don't know if we've been forced into the kind of higher quality mode. If there's a lot of traffic on Twitch, we get kind of pushed back a little bit, and players or viewers are kind of forced to watch in the high quality. So that might be what's happening, or it might just be a problem on your end, but I don't know what's going on with that. Oh yeah, that can sometimes do it. So we're saying that the town of Barton gets attacked by a very small raiding party, and the players now have been put in the situation where either they care about the town or they don't, but either way, they are seeing the threat to it. They are seeing that a much larger and more powerful force has kind of set their sights on this town. And Sie sind das Essen, und wir sind die Barton. I don't know how to pronounce those words. I don't know how to pronounce these words, Xandoril. I cannot do it! They have seen now, if we kind of start off with this idea that the world of Barton is under threat, and whether or not they decide to intervene in that, that's going to push us into kind of a new territory, where they are... where... what are the words I'm looking for? Where they have a greater understanding now of the politics of the world at large, even through this very small example. And maybe the players at this point decide to move on to another town because Barton is no longer safe, and then maybe the new town that they go to, if it's also part of the Kingdom of Visanya, well, that town is also being threatened, and maybe that town is under siege when they arrive there. But throughout these levels, I would begin to establish the war, specifically focusing on the conflict between the ruins of Lux's domain and the war bands of Tizel. So I would move on to this slightly larger stage, where now they are fleeing from or hiding from and constantly being thrown into battlefields and fighting orcs and goblins and hobgoblins, and seeing these sort of conflicts played out on a bigger scale. They see that the entirety of the domain that is part of Vasanya, that is part of Lux's kingdom, is being ravaged at these different points. Some of the towns they go onto might be under siege, where they're on fire, and I can definitely see some dramatic counters over the course of the campaign, where the players approach a town that they're supposed to meet someone in, and they come and the city's just, or settlement is just burning down. Orcs and goblins are all over the place. I would probably go over to Tzel here and look at Tzel's oracles. Okay, so we have this very interesting Krusk, the Practical, one of Tzel's generals, an orcish general who was very kind of simple and straightforward and emotionalist, and maybe this individual or one of his kind of chief underlings becomes a recurring villain in this stage, and is always kind of a little bit ahead of the players, unapproachable because he's under the cover of his army, but that's what I would want to do during the stage after the very beginning of the game, is establish some kind of recurring... Man, we made Tzel scary. That's lawful evil, man. We made Tzel the scariest thing on the map. Actually, no. You think Tzel is the scariest. No, we definitely made Karoshia the scariest thing on the map. Karoshia has a kingdom with a giant wall of flesh. So, I would begin to establish this war and focus on Tzel as the primary villain. And then, over the course of this war, this is where I would start to seed in more pieces from around the world. Maybe during one particular conflict, I can see them coming over a battlefield where there's just tons and tons of orc and, hardened flesh. But it's a big wall of flesh. I mean, even hardened flesh is a scary thing to have a massive wall made out of. I might have them come across the ruins of a battlefield that is filled with, damaged and broken automatons, as well as, the orc armies of Tzel. I might have them, wander into a piece of Oniara's forest that is spread a little bit farther into, the kingdom of Vasanya, or if they continue to proceed outwards, other kingdoms, and start to get some of the ideas of what goes on in that space. And I would start to just, weave in these smaller elements of the bigger kingdoms. So that's what I'll write here. Weave in small elements of larger kingdoms from time to time, seen also in conflict with Tzel, and taking non-neutral stances towards the kingdom of Vasanya. So start to kind of show off these other, places. And we're being very intentionally vague here, because there's so much detail that you'll need to flesh out once you get closer to these things. We've built, the grand beats and the grand notes of the world. I don't think if I was running a campaign that I, at least, would be capable of showing off all of the stuff in this world. There would be a couple of gods that probably were only just kind of spoken about, and that they never interact with in a major way. I can imagine, the Tarask egg deep within Oniara's kingdom might never be something that they get to see. Or, likewise, the library in, the City of Time of Zeeth's kingdom. That might be something that they never get to see. And I think I would let a lot of these places function that are, really kind of cool and big. I would let those function as the way that a lot of people choose to do planar travel, where they're places that you visit, but they're not places that are central to the campaign. They have a reason to go to these places if they do, but you don't put the campaign into a position where the players are forced to spend a lot of time in any of those locations. Seems like at that point you're just testing the waters to see what players like and want to get deeper into. Banach Shiba, that is exactly correct. You've put it extremely well. Just testing the waters to see what players like and want to get deeper into. You kind of keep things grounded by having a very real plot line and establishing a and establishing a sort of villain among the armies of Tezel. And again, these are all things that I would do in this world if I was going to run it, but nothing I've said is in any way like the end-all be-all of how you could run this world. The world that we built is very big and very strange, and I can think of like countless different cool approaches that one could take. The one that I'm taking is, I think, a very practical is a very like practical and traditional way of coming at this world. But I think you could do some much wackier stuff. I think you could do parties where the players are all devoted to different gods and are like competing to like accomplish goals. I think you could do a lot of different stuff with this. And it's going to come down to the players and your own preferences. Face of Jericho says, you can always make them central if the players take a big interest in them. Yeah, for sure. That's what I would even do in this phase. Like, the things that the players like and really wrap their heads around are the things that you make important. Like, maybe you make that library suddenly more interesting to the gods. Yeah. Like, if the players take a big interest in Zeeth, then maybe that's one of the central points that comes up. I think around the end of level 10, around the end of this phase of the game, I would establish a new villain in Karosha. So I think that this is the point in the game where you begin to shift the, after they've had some time and they've explored the world a little bit and they're starting to really, come into their own as adventurers. I think that this is the point where you shift the battlefield into the direction of Karosha. And Karosha is a scary undead, is a scary undead wielding goddess. And she has this Draco Lich called Avernon the Undying, who flies around raining death on battlefields, raises the dead of any given kind of place. And this is another cool villain that I think you could really like latch onto as a villain. But more than that, the reason I like Karosha as the next kind of antagonist in the story is because with Tezel, if you're fighting hordes, it feels like you're battling, hordes, and it feels very logical and individual. But I think if you move on now to make one of the gods themselves an antagonist, and Karosha is an antagonist to even the other gods, so it makes sense that the whole world would hate this individual, and then you're starting to establish this idea that, yes, the undead that Karosha commands are evil, but they are led by a god. In this case, it is the god that is the problem and that empowers them and that gives them strength. Much like you would think of a demon lord like Orcus, or somewhere like that. So you're starting to like kind of seed in their minds the idea that this thing is fueled by a power on a scale that we can only barely comprehend as it stands. Them just checking out a dead battlefield when they see something swoop by and everything begins to twitch and stand up. Yeah, radical. I think you can do, oh my god, do I think you could do some, evocative stuff with Avernon the Undying. I think that you could, maybe during a climactic battle, amidst the kind of, the warriors of Tezel, where, a big chunk of Tezel's warband has broken off and is battling against, the players that, battling against the, the various players that have NPCs that the players have gathered to fight them. Like, maybe they put together some kind of army, and this is all hypothetical, and again, depends on the players, but maybe they put together some kind of army. I could picture this huge sort of clash where the players sort of come together and battle against Tezel's forces, and then maybe have some small victories, some large victories. Maybe they're losing, but either way, then maybe this undead Draco Lich swoops in and begins just raising the dead, and it just becomes chaos, where either they're forced to align with their enemies or flee, and either way, there's a new scary thing. But I would definitely make that a dramatic moment that I would, like, plan around. Eventually, I want them to be in a situation where this can happen. And as much as you don't try to as much as you try not to railroad, I think it's very much okay, and maybe I'm unique in this, but I think it's very much okay to be like, I want this cool moment to happen. And when I say I want this cool moment to happen, I don't mean I want to force something to happen. I don't want to create a cutscene, but like, for example, if there's, you know, an execution, and you've decided, like, oh, well, this individual gets executed, but the players are in the audience. Well, you can't decide that because the players are in the audience, and they can change anything about the situation by trying to save that individual. But to plan for a moment, like, during this battle, I want there to be a big battle, and I want this cool Dracolich to swoop in and do something really impactful in it, that is, I think, totally okay, and actually, really, I would not call that railroading, personally. Yeah, the orcs become undead and they have to fight with them. That could be a cool way to take it. And you did kind of I did kind of an idea here of a grand idea, and I think you're on the right page of where I'm going to. So, levels 1 to 5, some fun, getting your feet wet as adventurers, getting to know the party and, you know, building some chemistry. Level 5 to 10, introduce a larger conflict, and then levels 10 to 15, you make one of the gods the antagonist, and then levels 15 to 20, you're fighting on the god stage. Yeah, that might be the way to do it. And then I think level 10 to 15 is also kind of a phase where they'll start to learn a little bit more about the gods, and maybe they, you know, maybe they go into Vosto's kingdom, and they meet this kind of crazy beholder that has the whole world mapped out, and they start to put together pieces of it. Xandarel, it isn't a cutscene, nor is it a random encounter. It's an event that would happen whether the players were there or not. The players just happen to be there. Precisely. That is a very good and succinct way of putting it, Xandarel. I think that there's a tendency to shy away from kind of some of that stuff, because railroading has become very much a swear word that people go very far out of the way. Yeah, you just choose to have that thing happen when the players are there. And as a GM, even if, like, I also hear about a style of GMing where you kind of have things going on in the world that are always going to happen regardless. I don't like to do that. Like, if there's going to be a cool thing where there's this battle and then all these undead are raised, I'm going to save that until the players get to see it. I'm not just going to let that happen over off in the distant corner. I like cutscenes. Jeremy. Jeremy, you like cutscenes? Jeremy, this is untrue. I know this is untrue about you. You just have the thing happen when the players are there. How convenient. Yeah, it's fine. They don't know it's convenient. Also, hi, Max. Wait, Jeremy. Now I cannot tell if you're trolling me or not. You've sufficiently fooled me. I mean, technically, armies of undead are arisen a bunch of times. This is just one of the ones they see. That's just like Crocious thing. Yeah, for sure. Either way, this is the stage where once we get to levels 5 to, once we get to levels, let's talk about that sometime on. Let's talk about that sometime on Talks. Jeremy. Because I don't like cutscenes. I like, in some scenarios. I like cutscenes in one-shots. Because sometimes you gotta do a cutscene in a one-shot. But, and I like cutscenes where the players would not have any agency in them. I also like those. But cutscenes in which the players could potentially have agency, I don't like. Oh, okay. Cool. So, what I would do here is... this is the fun... This is, like, the cool stage. I think 11-15 is where you're getting into the sweet spot, where the players are starting to feel sort of, like, masters of their world. They are getting access to spells, like, you know, in that range, I think they'll get access to teleportation magics, they'll get access to things like Find the Path, and they'll really begin to start, you know, moving around the world more freely. So the map that was small and the kind of confined areas that they were in all of a sudden widens on a really huge scale. They get to, the goal is to make interactive cutscenes. I mean, yeah, for sure. If you can make your whole game feel like a really huge cutscene with complete agency in it, then that sounds like a movie. That sounds dope as hell. That would be a rad game. And an incredible DM. It's hard to make interactive cutscenes, but it can be done, you know, on a small scale. It's just like, you can't make everything like that, but you can do it. But I would also, you know, then it comes into the semantics of what is a cutscene, and if the players can interact with it, is it a cutscene? Like, it's just the game. It's just a game then. Or a Telltale game. Yeah, sounds like Xenosaga. Also, Sword, I hadn't seen you yet, but welcome! We're getting into some shit tonight. I like it. This is a fun conversation topic, just talking about, like, how people build campaigns and stuff, because, as I've mentioned a few times, but I think it's good to reiterate it every like 15 minutes or so, this is how I would build this campaign, but it is not necessarily how everyone else would, so please show me your ideas and what you guys think that you would do, because I'm interested in, like, what some of the other approaches to this game might be. Like, are any of you out there thinking currently, like, man, this is such a waste of this world, this is not what I would do with this place? I'm very interested to hear that, if that's the case. So 11 to 15, grander tours of the world. This is where I would start to really highlight some of the cool world building stuff that we did. I would bring them to the place where the river floats through the air. I would bring them to the cool triple volcano and maybe have some kind of, you know, very set-piecey triple volcano eruption battle with some, you know, threat that they have to take down over there. Or, you know, a triple eruption while they're in town collecting MacGuffin C. You know, I would go around and just really start to use all of the awesome stuff that we put together in this world, because there's some cool stuff. Like, let's just look over at the, places. Wait, do we not want places? Where's our places? Where's our territory tab? It's, I think, above, yes, of course. I want to go to the Ironvale Forest. I want them... I want to go to the Ironvale Forest, and at some point to see the trees that are just made of pure iron, and I want them to learn that little piece of lore where, you know, Vosto transformed the trees into iron, and the god Oniares was absolutely furious about that. Like, I want the players to know that little piece of lore at some point. Face of Jericho, I'm mulling over how to make this into a West Marches. That is a great question, and I think if I was going to build this game into a West Marches, which could be that could be a cool direction for this, I would, like, make a document, and I guess you already have a document, because we have one here, where all of the gods are outlined, and have the players form parties, like, of people aligned with certain gods, and then have their West Marches kind of missions be doing work for a particular god. Like, oh, today we're all, like, I'm a cleric of Vosto, or, you know, regardless, I'm a member of Vosto's kingdom, and I want to see his goals furthered, and then, you know, you can do essentially missions for gods, and then go back and, you know, that affects the world, and that's kind of how I would do a West Marches here, and let the players, like, really kind of lean into it, and encourage people to make a lot of different characters that were affiliated with different groups. Just wait until they find out the Iron Trees were turned into Iron Treants. Oh, that sounds like such a good encounter, Sword. That sounds like an awesome encounter that I would want to run in this world. And I mean, I don't know why I didn't... I hope that my mind would have eventually gone there, because it's just so logical, like, in the kind of living forest that the Iron Trees, there would be an Iron Treant. But I hadn't thought of that yet, actually. Like, that's so good. Aren't those just robots? No, I think they're Iron Treants. They're still Treants at heart. They're just made of metal. Like a metal golem, like an iron golem isn't a robot. I think it counts different. So yeah, we have all these cool places. Oh, the dark. Oh god, the dark is the coolest thing. A powerful darkness spell was cast on the region, leaving it permanently enshrouded in magical darkness, said to be a home to a tribe called the Forgotten, individuals that have abandoned the worship of the gods and developed blind sight over years within the dark. So cool. I want the players to go there at this point, and this is the time frame. You know, it's levels 10 to 15 where we start to kind of send players in odd directions around the world. And maybe the reason that they're going to these places is to learn information, maybe they get there naturally, maybe you've put into place some kind of collect the MacGuffins to do the thing. And I think at some point in this game, there's going to have to be either a MacGuffin location or a place that would allow them to kind of puncture into the Evervale. Circle of the Ore Druids. Oh, that sounds so cool. I'm picturing basically Toph from The Last Airbender when I picture Circle of the Ore Druids just like feeling the metal in walls and like ripping it out and stuff like that. And for anyone unfamiliar with Avatar The Last Airbender, you should watch that show because it is incredible. I endorse it wholeheartedly and fully. Oh. Alright, so that's kind of levels 15 to... that's levels kind of 10 to 15, and then... just not the movie. Wait, is this sounds like it might have been a point of contention between the two of you. That's funny. Not the movie. You didn't like M. Night Shyamalan's version of Avatar The Last Airbender? It was really good. It wasn't very good. I did not enjoy it personally. I do not recommend. But the show is absolutely incredible. Some of the best writing. Zuko's the best character in anything I've ever seen. In terms of like the most interestingly written character. Will the VOD of this be saved for later viewing? Yeah, absolutely. It'll also, I think, be on our YouTube page at some point. So you can also watch it there. But it will definitely be saved for later viewing, if that is your desire. God, Zuko's character development is amazing. Before we go too far, I will say, yes, it is Xandar. He's the, like... At some point in that show, I think he hits every alignment. Like, and in a way that feels naturally. Wait, what did I just say? I don't know what I just said that could have been so controversial. I have no idea what I could have said. Oh, I said that Avatar The Last Airbender was bad, yes. I'm sorry if you feel that way. I don't know if you're trolling me or not. Okay, you're trolling me, good. If anyone has any strong feelings about that movie, then, you know what? Sometimes I gotta take a stand, and this time my stand is, it's not a good movie. The Dragon Ball movie. Now that's a piece, that's a masterpiece. Alright, let's talk more about the world that we're in, though. So, grander tour of the world, highlight some of the cool world building aspects. Let's talk about that big end game. We're talking levels 15 to 20. And, see, it gets a little bit harder to kind of plan. And I said I like to have an idea, and that idea is battling the gods. That's our core idea. You know, you fight the gods at some point. But in what nature? We have no clue what the players are going to do over the course of the campaign. You cannot, you know, plan that much. We just have this general idea that at some point we want to have a big fight, climactic fight in which they battle a god or multiple gods, or a series of fights in which they battle multiple gods. So what would I do to kind of push them in that direction if they follow everything that I've been putting out in front of them to the T? And that's impossible, but let's assume that that has happened. Well, they'll battle some people. They'll battle Karosha's minions at some point. around this level. I think they go into Creperum and, like, go over the flesh wall and just have, like, a crazy, brutal dungeon crawl where they go in there and then battle, like, the Dragon Lord around that level 15. Maybe around then would be the point. But that Draco Lich, rather. They'll need to collect some MacGuffin that allows them to pass through the Evervale, or some act that draws the gods down to the game board. But here's the big thing that I think is going to be happening around level 15 to 20. I think at level 15 to 20, one of the things that we decided about this world in the timeline, and oh yeah, I mean, we're pulling all the stuff from the world at this point, but one of the things about the timeline, or it's, you know, it's written in the history of this world, is that this game is coming to an end. And it's going to end very soon. So this is the point of the game where I would start to make it feel like the apocalypse. I would have all of the gods start to have their plans pop off and explode. Like, all of Tazel's forges go and march on whatever the dregs that are left of whatever the weakest kingdom is based on the way events have played out, and wipe it out. Like, kill a faction. I would probably have, you know, that Tarrasque egg that's been growing in Oniaraz's forest. I would have, you know, the demons deep within the pit from our boy Phlegethos's kind of underground settlement start to, like, rise up and fly. I would make it feel like the end of days, because it quite literally is. I just read Shiva. I love imagining the scene where they charge into the Evervale and rip open a portal out into a different world and show up at somebody's house in front of a bunch of nerds playing a board game that call themselves gods. Just how unsatisfying. When they get there and it's just a bunch of, like, it's just like 9 8-year-olds that are all sitting around. Well, I guess the only 8-year-old there is our boy Vosto. Maybe the party has a bard that decides to try to charm one of the gods into their bed. Probably Corrosia. I feel like the god most likely to be brought into bed would be Cherish, the god of love, but who could say? I like the idea of Cherish, whatever her, or whatever their kind of wild plan was, that kind of pops off, and all of a sudden Cherish becomes in, like, this incredibly powerful position right at the end. Whatever I'm going to do at the end of the game, whatever I'm going to do at the end of the game, I'm going to make sure that the world, quote-unquote, pops off, and all of the gods' master plans to win come into fruition in one way or another. So, Vosto is the young brother they're forced to play with. Yes, indeed. So, that's what I would do at the end of the game, and then I would have them fight the gods. And that's the game, honestly. That's how I would run this campaign. And as I've said countless times now, it's all subject to how things go. But this is the kind of rough sketch I would want to go in with going into Game 1. This is what I would want to know about this game going into Session 1. And then I would also, you know, build a lot more notes about what I'm going to actually do in Session 1, and what kind of more minute details I want to start seeding. There was someone at some point that said you want to start subtly seeding different different ideas about the campaign at large, and that is absolutely correct. You do want to do that, and that can be very tough. That can be very tough to do, and so that requires a lot of thought, and that's something that I'd be doing before each session, and I would probably go into this campaign before each thing and say, like, alright, what little detail of world lore that I've thought about and that, you know, we want to at some point come into existence, what thing do I want to get across this game? Swordkiller here saying, then after the game's over and the players win, they become the peace holders and reset the board, essentially becoming the gods and starting the game anew. Yeah, that would be a cool ending to this game. And, you know, there's tons of ways it could end. They could escape, they could flee to another world, they could open this world up into the planar system, they could lose. I think a really interesting way for this game to end is if the players were, like, really devoted to a god, is for them to never figure out that, you know, whatever god that they've aligned themselves with is essentially a villain that's working to eventually bring about their apocalypse, and to win, which causes the apocalypse to happen. And then the world just kind of ends, which would be kind of it would be an odd way for the game to end, and maybe unsatisfying, but it would also be a really cool way for the game to end that we would probably write about on Reddit and get tons of Reddit karma for this crazy campaign that happened. She's been spending all this time planting seeds and basically planning a massive mass domination spell. Yeah, I was kind of thinking something along those lines too. Like, I feel like it's just one moment of magic that happens. If they worship me in the end, the territory counts as mine, right? Yeah, I mean, like, dead on. That's very sort of ending of, wait, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not even going to say what that's like the ending of. They become the 9-year-olds. Yeah, they could become the gods. I mean, there's just so many cool ways for this to wrap up. And with that, I think... oh, wait. Reflected Tonight says, in the end of days, everyone eats, drinks, and loves, for there may be no tomorrow. And what else can bring such massive power to the god of love? That's such a cool idea. Like, that's the kind of thing that... I don't know, that's the kind of thing, if I read that in a book, I would find so satisfying and be like, oh yeah, that tracks so much. That's so cool. Like, that's such an awesome idea, Lance. So, yeah, anyway, this is kind of... yeah, exactly, Reddit thread. That time my players ended their own world without realizing it. Yeah, I can picture the karma rolling in, if you posted that. Although I would never be the one to do it. So, yeah, I don't know, that's kind of where I was thinking. It didn't take quite the full length of Worlds, to get through everything, but I don't know, that's kind of where I would end this campaign. I would take a lot more time really fleshing out the details on the smaller scales, on, you know, the session-to-session basis, and you can't plan too far ahead, and you can't plan ahead in too much detail, because, you know, campaign is a living thing, and it never will go the ways that you expect it to. But this is where I'd kind of feel comfortable starting, and then seeing what the players actually do. I'd probably want to know that this was where I was going even before I got into Session 0. I would want to have this kind of much done. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's where we're going to probably wrap up this episode of Worlds. Again, we're a little bit early, but I think we've accomplished the thing that we wanted to accomplish today, which is talk about how we run a campaign in this world. Unless you guys have anything else that you would like to talk about, because we do still have a half an hour left, so if there's anything that you want to go over, we can do that. And in the meanwhile, I will say, yes, we can, like I was saying, we can hang. Like, I'm down to hang, but I think we've pretty much kind of wrapped up what we're going to talk about for at least building this campaign. I will say that next week, or not next week, but the week after next week, we're going to do something. It's going to be related to Empyrion, and it's going to be some fun thing. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. It might be a play session of some kind. It might be something else cool that I think of that I don't have right now, so I can't tell you that it might be it, but I might think of something cool. I just had a moment of inspiration right now that I won't share with you because I don't know if it's going to, I don't know if it's going to pan. It might be coolminecraftstream.jpg. Allow me a brief moment to self-plug. If you're ever watching Pete and Jeremy's D&D time and think, man, that Pete guy, haven't got enough of him, you can watch me silently play Minecraft while I sit in Hangout chat after Pete and Jeremy's D&D time on some select Fridays on my personal Twitch channel, where my stream is called coolminecraftstream.jpg. It is the least interactive stream, and probably the least interesting stream, unless you're in the chat listening to people talking after D&D time. So make sure you check that out. It is a delight. It's good. It's pleasant. what kind of Minecraft do I play? Vanilla. Just vanilla. That's it. Regular old traditional Minecraft. Could we all move to a Discord chat to hang so my internet stops trying to kill itself? Yeah, guys, go chill in the tavern. Xanderel, oof on vanilla Minecraft. Are you kidding me? Vanilla Minecraft is the way to go. I love regular Minecraft. Actually, you know what? I do use some mods sometimes for... I do use some mods sometimes for visuals, like I'll use some nice shaders so I can look at some pretty landscapes and water. But I don't need anything other than what they put in that game. They give you enough tools as it is. I can make beautiful things with only what they've given me. Yeah, I mean, that stuff can be nice, the kind of visual upgrades. But anyway, next Worlds, 2 weeks from now, it's going to be pretty tight. We're going to wrap up. It's going to be the end of Season 1, quote-unquote, and Season 1 was the world of Empyrion, which we are, wrapping up. I don't know what we're going to do for Worlds, or if we're going to do Worlds when it comes back. And that's something that I definitely want to do. And you know what? Maybe we'll do this now, so that next week we can just do whatever the fun thing is going to be. Because we do have some time left. I wanted to ask you guys, just very kind of generally, what do you guys think of Worlds? What did you like about this kind of show? What did you maybe not like about DnDTime Worlds? Like, what did you like about the world of Empyrion? What did you not like about it? Do you want to keep doing Worlds? Because we can, like, do something else. Like, I'm gonna continue to stream something in this Tuesday slot, like every other Tuesday, after we kind of come back from our Pete and Jeremy's DnDTime, the full DnDTime winter break, but it might end up being something a little bit different. I've for a long time kind of wanted to do, I don't know if DnDTime fits into my Christian Minecraft server. I don't know if we want to, like, do this again and just start with a new world and just take a new direction, if people are, like, really into continuing this, or, I have a thing I've wanted to do for some time, which I'm definitely going to do at some point. I don't know when, but I really wanted to do a I would want to do a music creation stream where I just go on FL Studio and I go on Audacity and, I get some of my instruments out and I'm just going to build some music for, DnDTime and for some other stuff that we have in the works that I haven't talked to you guys about yet, because I want to, do some custom music for that. So, DnDTime beats. Absolutely. And so, Zenderil says, I love building a world with everyone. I did too. But actually, it says, personally, I loved Worlds, though I could see that it was that because it was such a continuation, people joining midway had a hard time catching up and keeping the continuity. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that one. And that's a big thing I've learned as a lesson from Worlds this time through. So if we do Worlds again, I think we're going to build things a lot more modularly and really focus on one thing at a time, and try and finish. Face of Jericho saying they agree. I really want to focus down on one thing at a time, where maybe if we're building a world, we start out with a starting town or whatever, we build like a town in a starting location, or, whatever it is we end up doing. We build maybe a tribe or some civilization, and then we move on to a new one. So we build a lot of things a little bit more modularly, which might not build as cohesive a world, but it would allow kind of new people joining in, because I think there's definitely days where people have had ideas for the world, and they've been cool ideas, but I was not able to, like, use them, like, because they just directly conflicted with the whole idea of the world. I cannot remember who it was, and if you're here, I'm sorry that this happened. There was somebody who really wanted to, like, make the world really heavily, influenced and built around dragons, but it was just like, we can't fix... I can't remember who it was at this point, but I was like, yeah, I mean, that would be really cool, and that could be a cool world, but it's just like, we're so deep in, and they didn't have any of the context of, those, all of the gods that we had created, and, like, the rules for oracles and stuff like that. So they were like, oh no, but these dragons would be really rad in the world, and I was like, yeah, but we can't do it, because we have so much built. Sword Career, yeah, give you a lot of ideas and places to use in various worlds without being pigeonholed for one and done game. Yeah, for sure. That might be a direction that we could take Worlds if that's something that you guys would think would be fun. Like, each time on Worlds, do something like we did with Barton, where we build a singular place. Start it from scratch, build it out, flesh out the kind of locations, and just build single things each time, and rather than doing like the long overscaling build a whole world, build a lot of elements of a world. Actually, regardless, I thought it was awesome. I totally plan on running this the next time I can find a group of people to run it with. Shiva, someday, if you've run that campaign, and this is probably a very far time down the road, and I feel like the people who hang out in Worlds might be the people to talk about being... Wait, no, that might be the wrong people. Never mind, I take it back. The people in Worlds are probably the worst people to play this campaign with, because they know everything that's gonna happen. I take it all back. I was about to say that this would be the place to look for a group. If you ever run the game and then finish that campaign, we're gonna do a DnDTime Worlds Empyrion Season 1 Episode 11, or I think this is the 9th episode, but I could be mistaken about that. But we're gonna do like an Episode 11 or Episode 10 or whatever it ends up working out to, where, Shiba, you come on and tell me how your game in this world went, because I'm really interested to see like how this campaign would actually play out, and I don't think that I personally have time to run it, and I can't run it on D&D time because you guys would all know what would happen. So I would love to hear how this game would end up going. Yeah, Season 1 Epilogue. So, Shiva, we'll bring you on the stream to do that if you ever run that game, if you're interested in also doing that. So, yeah, I don't know. There's some ideas there. Maybe we will do a more modular thing. Maybe we'll do, the world, still do the big world, but build it in smaller chunks where, people don't have to feel limited by anything that we've already built, which will be a little hard to do. What appeals to you guys more? That, like, idea of building a world modularly, or building a world in kind of chunks, while still keeping the idea of it being one world that we're working on week after week? Wait, I think I said the same thing twice. Building the same world week after week, or just building pieces that could be put into any world? Which one of those appeals to you guys more? Because I don't know which one I would want to do more. I mean, honestly, both sound pretty fun to me to at least to do on the stream here, but I don't know which one I would necessarily prefer. And maybe at some point I can do like a straw poll and kind of get people's general opinion on between those two. And there's other stuff that we'll be doing in this time slot as well. Like I said, I definitely want to do more generally useful stuff. Okay. So Sword Crow here. I think building them separately would allow you to be a lot more flexible. Yeah, I think so too. Building the same world is better, says Shiba, but because people will be joining midly, probably the modular world. The most fun I had with one of these streams was building Barton, for what that's worth. Yeah, that's a good point. And I thought the Barton stream was also very fun. So maybe that's the kind of direction that we should go. So I think that would be fun. I also think that we can do some more kind of cool stuff. I would love to do world building streams where like people are getting to a point in their own campaigns where they have maybe a city that they're bringing their players to with nothing prepped for it, and we can all collectively pull on the imagination of our hive mind to just siphon creativity for other people's worlds, which I think could be really fun. So maybe once we move into DnDTime Worlds, we'll call Empyrion our one big world, and then start doing more chunky stuff. Because again, I also had a blast with Barton. Barton's such a delight. For anyone who wasn't here for Barton, I just want to go back over a couple of the things in Barton. Where are you, my sweet Barton? Where are you, Barton? Um, that was one thing I loved. Okay, so the town has the Barton Fire Response Crew, which are 3 people that wear a kind of like a little white band around their arms that go to put out all the fires in town, and they're volunteers. That's such a delightful little detail. I had so much fun building that with you guys. Like all these little things made Barton great. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's where we're going to wrap up the stream for today. I'm glad we talked about some of that stuff. It was good doing Empyrion with you, and like I said, I don't want to say like this is kind of the end of us building the world, but next week we're going to do kind of the fun wrap up, and then I'll say thanks for building Empyrion together with me and all of us then, but also thanks for building Empyrion with me, guys. It's been really fun building this world, and I've definitely learned a lot about the world building process, and we made some cool stuff for sure. So, with that, I think I'm going to wrap up now. Someone at some point said, can we switch to a Discord chat to just hang out? I am probably going to do that for... Actually, I think I got to talk to Jeremy for a little bit, but I'll come down and also hang out in Discord chat for a little bit in the tavern on our DnDTime server, which... as we're talking about D&D time, tune in to our other stuff. That's right, we're getting to the announcements at the end. Tune in tomorrow for D&D Time Talks, where we're going to be talking about this was a title I was very proud of, but Over the River and Through the Woods. To Grandmother's House we go on D&D Time Talks, as we'll be talking about scavenging, overland travel, and kind of survival in D&D time. How to run that stuff, and whether or not you should run it, and where it's fun, and how to extract the fun from those kind of aspects of gameplay. And then tune in on Friday for Pete and Jeremy's D&D time, where it will be Welcomes Taking. Yes, that's right, folks, Welcomes Taking, one of the most delightful holidays in all of the land of D&D time, where you're welcome to take anything from anyone's table. It is our Thanksgiving event, so to speak. Happy Thanksgiving in advance for anyone who celebrates Thanksgiving here. And then tune in on Sunday for D&D Time Delves. I do not know about Saturday, whether or not Jeremy, I don't know if you're still hanging out, Jeremy, but whether or not Jeremy is doing behind the screen. I think that he is not doing behind the screen, but I cannot say that for certain. Yeah, so tune in to that on Sunday, and again... Oh, I was incorrect. He is doing it this week. I was so very wrong. Oh, geez. I didn't look at the announcements, but I didn't want to put the Discord up on the screen because it doesn't look as good. I love you all. Thank you for tuning in. You're the best ever. I love you. I'm Pete, and this was DnDTime Worlds. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.